Now that we're in Queensland, it's time to summarize our time in New South Wales. And we always make these videos super long. So today we're gonna rapid fire our answers, and these are the things we're gonna cover. So we were in New South Wales for 63 days, which is just over 2 months.
So starting off with the thing that most people are interested in most of the time, and that is our expenses. So our total spend for those 2.07 months is $3,654.88. Now, if you break that down to monthly expense, that is $1,764.59, and that comes to a daily average of $58.01. Now, we found that the state summaries had like a pattern, and it's very much the same with the expenses, so we won't go too much into detail, but there's two things that I wanted to note, and that is our gear was slightly over budget by $100, which isn't too bad, and that's because we needed to get a hard drive to archive all our footage on. And then our groceries was also about $100 a month more than what we typically do. And that's primarily because we had good flybys and Woolworths rewards deals. So we spent a little bit more and bulked up on groceries a little bit and points. So it's not like a concern or anything. Now, if you do want to see a breakdown or a detailed breakdown more of like how much we spend on insurances and mobile plan and whatever, you can just watch one of our other state summaries. We go into detail with those pretty well, so, or you could just comment down below and we can answer it for you. Speaking of money, things that were worth the money. Now, we didn't spend that much, like always, but the one thing that I did want to note was the public transport in Sydney was pretty decently priced. I think it was $35.60 for both of us for a day, and that was capped, and that included 4 ferry trips and a couple of bus trips. And I feel like that was such a good way to see the city. And if you think of it as like a boat cruise or something, I feel like that holds such great value. And also it made things so much more convenient. So if you're in Sydney, I definitely would recommend taking the ferries and really exploring the city that way. Now onto the things that were a waste of money. Now there wasn't much except for maybe the National Parks Pass, and this is quite nitpicky. We probably could have saved a little bit of money just paying for the ones that do require you to pay, but we just thought National Parks Pass, let's get it. But I think it's around 45 out of the 895 national parks that do charge. So if you're only going to go to a few that do charge, it's probably better to just pay when you're there.
Now, best campsites. So we had 3 that come top of mind. First is Lilydale Camping near Grafton, purely because of the cows. Secondly is Doomerick Dam near Armidale, because that was a really awesome setup. And then third is Mount York Campground. I think it's Lookout Campground in the Blue Mountains. And that was purely because of location, but also the lookout was a beautiful spot for sunset. Now, best experience, we couldn't pick just one, so we have written a list. We've got the Grand Canyon walking track, the whole of the Waterfall Way Drive, sunrise at the Seacliff Bridge, swimming, I would say more specifically at Jervis Bay and Watamulla Creek, and then technically not New South Wales, but the hot air balloons in Canberra, they were just incredible.
Now on to our least favorite experiences. Now this is mainly falls on us because it is purely down to the choice of clothing. I think we probably were still in the state of mind with Tassie. We were wearing like winter clothes and whatnot. And now that we're in Queensland, we're wearing t-shirts and shorts all the time. But when we did the Royal Coast track, it was brutally hot.
I did not really dress for being that hot, otherwise I would have worn shorts and a t-shirt. I would definitely recommend that.
And the sun was so intense and it was quite a lengthy hike. And because we visited there at the end of summer, the waterfall wasn't flowing that much anyway. But also the same thing happened on Cockatoo Island when we were exploring Sydney. The sun absolutely just cooked us and we were just so exhausted. And yeah, so note to self, wear appropriate clothing wherever you go.
So things we wanted to do but didn't. First was Scenic World, which we mentioned we were planning on doing when we went to the Blue Mountains, but I don't feel like we missed out not doing it. So not a huge loss. Then exploring more of the coastal towns in New South Wales. This was for 2 reasons. Firstly, we had really bad weather during our time in New South Wales. And then secondly, there are not a lot of free camping spots along the coast. I also wish we had participated more in the activities at Mardi Gras, and I guess as a whole put ourselves out there more. And then there were a few outback locations in New South Wales that we had saved that we didn't end up going to. Now, this is purely because of how much of a detour it would be from the path we were going. And one example I can give is the Lightning Ridge Boar Baths. We looked at heading out there when we were around the Coffs Harbour area, and when looking at it, Coffs Harbour to the Boar Baths would have been an 8-hour drive one way. So sometimes we do make these sacrifices because Australia is huge, where we go, okay, if we go that way, it'll take us massively out and be 8 hours plus of driving.
Now onto bigger surprises. The first one I'm going to cover is the road quality. There were so many potholes and bumps and humps in the road. I had to be like 110% alert at all times. The second one was phone signal. I wasn't really expecting there to be great signal in a few of the spots, but I don't think there was a single spot where we struggled with phone signal. And then the third one is generally how beautiful New South Wales is. I feel like tourism pushes the Sydney CBD and surrounding area, as well as the Blue Mountains, a lot. And there's so much more than just those locations in New South Wales.
Now onto our biggest challenges. So like I mentioned briefly earlier, we did have an issue finding free camps along the coast, and this was quite a huge issue, especially further north around the Byron area. And to give an example, a lot of the campsites that are there are rest areas that actually have really short limitations. There's one example, I can't think of the name of it, but it is near Byron, and they've recently added surveillance and cameras, and they've cut it down to, I think, 4-hour limits. And then another one that I've kind of touched on before was weather. Now, during our time in New South Wales, we had multiple severe weather warnings and just seemed to get really bad luck with the weather. And you guys would have seen that from the Blue Mountains, where we mentioned that we had to wait around the Blue Mountains for a couple of weeks until the weather was right. And that whole time we were watching on Instagram other people posting the Blue Mountains and having absolutely no visibility. So we're glad we waited, but it was a little bit of a pain waiting for that to clear. And then another example is when we were staying at Lilydale near Grafton, a severe weather warning came in for thunderstorms and hail, and we actually ended up just driving back towards Coffs Harbour to get out of the worst of it. But pretty much the whole 2 months we had really on and off weather, which sucked. And our biggest challenge, which honestly we were probably dealing with before New South Wales, do you want to be in on this one?
Yeah.
Scootin'. Oh, we're having a cuddle, are we?
It's nice and cold today. So
There's a chilly morning.
It's close for warm.
It's Queensland though, it'll be boiling in like half an hour. As soon
give
as
it
the
some
sun's
time.
up. So I guess our biggest challenge, which we've been dealing with months before New South Wales, is homesickness. And I know that sounds really silly because I'm sure that as soon as we get home, within 2 weeks, we'll be itching to get on the move again and to be traveling again.
And our family would be like, oh, go on.
Yeah, family
we don't
would
want
be
to deal
sick
with you
of us.
anymore.
But we've been really homesick.
Yeah, to put it in perspective, like we've been gone for almost 2 years now. That's such a long time to not see family members or even friends. And like I have a nephew now that I haven't met and he's already crawling and walking, and I have a niece that I think is in pre-kindy. I don't know my stages, but she's really mature and older now.
And when we left on the lap, we went to her 1 year birthday, like just before. We've just been really homesick, and I think we've placed this huge amount of pressure on ourselves to see everything and do everything and cover everything while we're on the lap. And that's why it's taken us, almost 2 years to do how many states? We went
5,
very slow
6, maybe,
for a very long time. And I think we almost lost sight of finishing the lap, and it almost felt just like a permanent lifestyle of us not being home. And I think we're really looking forward to seeing family and getting home and embracing that journey again of finishing the lap. And
Yeah, I think it's just quite an overwhelming situation. Like, we're okay, but it's gonna be so nice to be back and just reset and, you know, catch up with people and make sure that everything's all right.
Just to have somewhere stable for like a couple weeks will be
not to have to worry about anything with travel related.
To have a dishwasher.
I already have one.
Shut up.
Joking.
Please destroy him down in the comments. Thank you.
I feel like we're pretty balanced in our relationship.
No, we are. But yeah, I think to have somewhere that's stable and to catch up with people for a couple weeks or longer would be really nice. I think we're ready for that now.
Also, just to take like a little break from traveling. Like it's quite a lot, and it's always a lot to think about. You're like, okay, so where are we going next? And you have to do research.
It sounds really weird if you're not a full-time traveler, but you do get tired of full-time traveling. I'd say not to say we're at that point, but I think we're just ready to see family and be home for a couple of weeks. And I know we had a lot of those comments, I think in the first ever van life summary thing we did 3 months in. And people were saying that, you know, you do need a break from full-time traveling, and it's very different to just going off for a holiday. So I don't know. I'm excited to give everyone a hug and catch up, but I guess that's it.
Yeah.
I felt like we speed ran through that. Let's wait until we edit it and it's like 4 hours of footage.
It won't be.
You believe in us.
Yeah.
But thanks for watching, guys. We're currently loving Queensland so far, and we can't wait to show you more in the next one.
Whatever we're getting up to. I got a little sidetracked there.
See you in the next one.
Bye, guys.
No, that was so cute.
I already said whatever we're getting up to.
Okay. See you in the next one.
I'll see you in the next one.
Whatever we're getting up to. Bye.